Hello everyone! In this video, I am going to briefly explain about the international logistic infrastructure from the topic Chapter 2 International Logistics. Before I start, let me introduce myself. My name is Norliza Binti Zaamrey and my number matrix is 281303. I am a BIBM student and from Group B of course code GFML 3035 International Logistics. These are the contents that you will find in this video, and I'll be explaining briefly about each of them. Without further ado, let's start with the definition of infrastructure. Infrastructure is the general term for the basic physical terms of a business, region, and nation. The example of infrastructure includes transportation system, communication network, sewage, water, and electric system. These systems tend to be capital intensive and high cost investment, and are important to a country's economic development. There are three types of infrastructure that I will explain in this video, which are transportation infrastructure, communication infrastructure, and utilities infrastructure. The first one is transportation infrastructure, and these are the examples that I will explain next. Moving on to the first one, which is the port infrastructure. The depth of the water or the draft of port infrastructure must be 40 feet as it is the standard requirement to access a port. Next is the bridge clearance, which is the space between the bridge and the water. Port operations, which basically means hours of operation, union rules, and overall organization. Next is warehousing space. The amount of warehousing storage space, whether it is covered, non-covered, and refrigerated warehouse storage space will influence the operations. Next is the cranes. Cranes are very critical in a port's ability to load larger ships. Next one is port capacity, which is the ability of a port to handle a certain amount of cargo volume. Last but not least about port infrastructure is the berths, which is the location in a port where the ships are being loaded and unloaded. Most berths are traditional, they only enable the ship to load from one side. Next transportation infrastructure is canals and waterways infrastructure. Canal is a human-made waterway that allows boats and ships to pass from one body of water to another. Canals are critical to international transportation as it shortens the shipping routes. Therefore, it will save time and the operating costs for the vessels. The third transportation infrastructure is airport infrastructure. It has runways and taxiways, meaning the number, length, and design of the runways determine the type of aircraft and the capacity of an airport. Hours of operations, which includes passengers operation, terminal operations, and airside operations, that includes aircraft landing and navigation. Airport infrastructure has warehousing space, and also some airports are landlocked. Moving on to the next transportation infrastructure, which is rail infrastructure. It is a means of conveying passengers and goods on wheeled vehicles running on rails, and it is also commonly referred to as train transport. Multimodal emphasis, which means having or using variety of modes or method to do something. And the creation of the multimodal container has eliminated the need to load and unload merchandise from the traditional boxcars. Last but not least on the transportation infrastructure are road infrastructure and warehousing infrastructure. Road infrastructure is one of the important medium of transporting passengers and carrying goods. It is also able to carry people as well as materials, raw materials, semi-finished and finished products intended for sale. Meanwhile, the warehousing infrastructure. It should concern the protection of the goods when they are waiting while transit. Warehousing service is so important as it allows firms to maintain the inventory and helps minimize the risk of delay in shipments. We have covered the infrastructure definition and the transportation infrastructure. Now I will explain the communication infrastructure, which is the second type of the infrastructure. It includes mail services and the telecommunication services. For mail services, the ability of the postal services to deliver mail on time, reliably, and safely has not been achieved in every corner in the world. Meanwhile, the telecommunication services, it is a primary concern about reliability in some fast-growing countries. Some countries will skip a particular technology to adopt the most recent one available, using a policy called leapfrogging. Last point that I will explain is the third type of infrastructure, which is utilities infrastructure. It includes electricity and water and solar. Electricity is not always reliably available in the world. It provides a substrate for modern life through the network of wires, towers, dams, and turbines that literally powers our economic and social practices. And then for water and solar, water supply and quality of water is a concern in many countries worldwide. The infrastructure designed to remove used water is critical and often a problem as well. That's all from me. I hope everyone who watches this video will get some inputs and new knowledge about infrastructure. Thank you.